lady friend. Got a minute? Welcome to the Women's Spotlight, Her Light, Her Story, a space where we celebrate women leaders, entrepreneurs, and creators who show up with courage, purpose, and authenticity. In each episode, we shine a light on her story, the real journey behind the titles, the challenges, and the victories. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to Jovon Richardson. She is a leadership coach and consultant for her own business called Lagniappe Business Services LLC. In our conversation, we're going to learn more about Jovon's story and how she shines light on her life's purpose. So let's grab some coffee, settle in, and let's step into this spotlight together with Jovon Richardson. So, how are you today, Jovon?
Hi, I am wonderful. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here. I'm excited about
Okay,
it.
well, we are so glad that you're here with us today. So, we're going to start off by talking about your story. We know
Okay.
every woman has a story worth shining light on. Can you
Mhm.
share a little of your journey and what shaped you into the woman that you are today?
Oh, wow. Well, certainly my family. So I was born in New Orleans. My family is originally from New Orleans. We moved to North Louisiana when I was 3. And so North and South Louisiana feel like home. I'm a true Louisiana girl. I was educated in North Louisiana, went to college at Louisiana Tech, graduated college, and then had the opportunity to start my career in the gaming industry. So I got a degree in business, started out in gaming on the finance side of things, and then moved into an analyst role and ultimately into human resources. So that would be the start of my career. And I spent, as I like to say, 20 years hard labor in the human resources field. But also doing other things. And I think that's a big part of my story is, having the mind and the willingness to try different things. So not only have I been in the human resources field, of course, I've done some accounting. I am a licensed insurance producer. I have done, multi-level marketing. I am now an entrepreneur for the last 4 years. So that's a part of my story and my journey. But really, what shapes me beyond that would be my family. So
Okay.
my family moved to North Louisiana. We didn't have any other family here, so it literally was my mom and dad and my sister and me, and
Okay.
that was essentially our family unit. So we are very close knit. And I was raised in the church, so my faith is an important part of what's gotten me through this journey for sure. So
Mhm.
my family, my faith, and then honestly, just my God-given talents and abilities. And I think what's so important to share is that for so long I didn't even fully embrace them or understand exactly what that was.
Mhm.
So, to be at this point where I am now, I work with teams, I work with leaders, and to have the opportunity to literally use everything that I've learned in my career. So, from gaming to nonprofit organizations, small organizations, large organizations, supporting small business owners, everything that I've used is like culminating in this point in time.
Mhm.
And I certainly fulfill like I finally stepped into my purpose. So
Okay.
I'm excited about this chapter of my life.
Okay, thank you so much. And I did want to say I usually say that before and forgot, but I wanted to say how I met you. So
Oh, yes.
I had the honor to meet Jovan at a women's conference that she was I'm sorry, I was a breakout presenter. You were a keynote speaker. And she did
Mhm.
such a great job. And I just connected
Thank
with her
you.
and went up to her after her presentation and just told her, hey, I feel like I found my person.
Yes,
So
yes.
I just wanted to say thank you again. She is my first guest on this podcast.
Thank
I'm
you.
very happy about that as well. And then it's just great to hear all of the things that you've done and how all of that has been brought together. God, helping you with all of that to get all of that brought together to do
Hmm.
what you're doing now. Sometimes we wonder why we're doing certain things at a certain point in time,
For
right?
sure.
And then we're like, now we can see, wow,
Hmm.
all the pieces coming together in the puzzle. So thank you again for sharing
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
Every woman leads in her own way. So
Hmm.
what's the heartbeat behind how you show up as a leader, whether that's in your home,
Hmm.
at your workspace, in your workspace, or in your community?
For me, honestly, it starts with authenticity. Me just being who I am and then connection. So being who I am, authentically sharing my story, their highs, their lows, and people can relate to that. And so because I'm really adamant about being myself, I'm able to connect with people and that really opens the door. I mean, I
Mhm,
teach leaders all the time. The key is to build relationships. And when people feel like you are authentic, that you can show your successes and your failures, that you can communicate that you're not perfect, they can connect with that. And
mhm,
I find, just like the conversation we're having today, I have these conversations with friends and colleagues. We are more alike than we are different. And
mhm,
people don't realize that we're all on a journey. We're all, navigating different struggles throughout life. And we are literally more connected than we are different. So
mhm,
to me, that's the foundation. It's really just being who I am. And I had a senior leader when I was a young HR leader. I started out in leadership in my 20s. And she'd heard about this young, dynamo that was an
mhm,
HR leader, and she was the head of HR for the entire company. And we were at a retreat, and she came up to me and she said, "You have a very genuine nature. You come across as just being yourself, very authentic." And she said to me, she's like, "Don't ever lose that." She was like, "Don't ever lose that because people will connect to that." So that's the foundation for me, being yourself,
mhm,
knowing yourself, understanding who you are. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your blind spots and biases? Because you bring that into every situation. And I just find that if we filter our experiences through those lenses and are aware, then it helps us to shape our communication and make sure that we are interacting in a way that is productive.
mhm,
Because as you know, my big thing about leadership is your goal as a leader is to get results through other people. And so those connections are important because people have to want to
mhm,
work with you or work for you, in whatever setting.
mhm.
I say all the time that I'm the COO of my home. Whether it's my husband or my children, I still have to have a certain level of rapport and I still have to show up in a certain way in order to accomplish the goals that we've set for our household, even or even within my family. I'm the self named family manager. So, but even so, that means you show up in a certain way. And I think the other piece is that you have an awareness that you carry a certain responsibility and you take it seriously.
Mhm. And, it helps for people to have know the expectations because then they know what's expected for them to do. And it sounds like
Hmm.
you being authentic and having that process of people knowing what it is that you're expecting, that is
Hmm.
going to help in any leadership role. And we know that leadership is more than just people following us. It's really not about people following us. It should be about us serving people. So I love
Absolutely.
how
Absolutely.
you stated
Yes.
that. So, what inspires you to keep showing up, even on the hard days? Because we know that there are some.
There are always hard days. And so you will recall when I was asked to speak at that leadership conference, I'll never forget the phone conversation. The coordinator asked me if I'd be willing to speak about resilience. And I chuckled and I thought, oh, yeah, I'm that. If nothing else, I'm that. I'm resilient. And so the thing for me, honestly, is that I just have, and you may recall the title of my presentation was Relentless Resilience.
Mhm,
I am relentlessly resilient. I am just one of those people that I've gotten knocked down. I have had significant failures in my life. I have made poor choices and bad mistakes and things of that nature, but I don't stay there. My mindset is always about, well, what's next? Where am I
mhm,
going? I still have this relentless belief in what my life can be and will be and what I want to accomplish. So that really is what changes the game for me. And when I speak to people all the time, I think sometimes people lose motivation or they lose sight of the goal. But for me, I don't know, maybe it's just something crazy in my brain. I just refuse to give up. And I've
mhm,
had people to say that to me. They're like, no matter how many times you get knocked down, no matter how many times you fail, I'm coming back. And I'm
mhm,
coming back hopefully stronger and better than I was before.
mhm. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah.
very powerful point, you all. So let's
Yeah.
shift a little and talk a little bit about What does self-care look like for you? We know it looks different for
Mm.
different women, and we know we have to make sure that we give ourselves that. So
Yes,
what does that look like for you in real life? I want to say not the Pinterest version, but the actual raw version.
yes. I love that question because I will be honest and say I haven't been great at this. This is something that is new that I'm stepping into in this new chapter. Shout out to my husband. He, promised me the soft life. So I'm stepping into it.
Okay.
But honestly, I haven't been great at self-care. I
Mhm.
really have not. I'm a recovering workaholic. I'm a recovering perfectionist and, recovering independent woman, all the things. And so in this season of my life, self-care looks like giving myself grace to not be perfect, to not have it all together, to not be able to do all the things. Self care looks like giving myself permission to rest, understanding that it's not a reward. I don't have to exhaust myself before I can rest. I don't have to forever be on and continue to do and do and do, but to give myself permission to rest. And in that grace that I mentioned, some of that is acknowledging that, you know what, you've done enough for today.
Mhm.
This is enough for today because we really have to change that narrative of what we think is reasonable or expected of us. So
Mhm.
for me, it's giving myself grace. It is allowing myself to rest. I am a person who recharges alone, so I need time to myself to be quiet, to be still,
Mhm.
to think, to pray, to meditate. I am a person that I've learned that God will give me a download. If I'm struggling with something or trying to figure something out, then I typically will wake up with a download sometimes early in the morning and I'll pull out my phone and start to jot down notes. It's also important for me to take care of my physical body. So, some of the typical things that people like, nice baths.
Mhm.
I definitely have to get my massages. Massages are no longer a luxury. They
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
a necessity and they're a part of me. They're a part of me taking care of myself is the way I see it now.
Mhm.
And that's a mindset shift because there was a time that I loved getting massages, but I thought of it as a luxury. And what I know now is it is not.
Mhm.
It's a part of me taking care of myself. So those are things, spending time with my family, with my husband, with my children, with my, immediate family and extended family. Those things are important. And when we can, getting away. I love to be near the water. I love to have experiences. That's another thing for me is that I don't like my life to be just so routine and the same thing over and over again. I like to have new experiences. Self-care for me is taking a different route home if it looks like it may be interesting. Self-care for me is that's a new neighborhood that I never knew existed. Let me drive through it and take a look at homes. Like there are so many little things that bring me joy, and it's taken time to identify those. But I would say that those are the things in terms of self-care, but the biggest being just giving myself the freedom, the space, the grace to be. Because
Mhm.
for so many years, I was defined by what I did.
Mhm.
And my brain was wired to think that I had to continue to do. And so the best thing that I could do for myself is give myself space to just be and
Mhm.
understand that I didn't. The other thing I struggled with over the years is I would always be giving and giving and giving and so concerned about other people before myself. And my
Mhm.
mother would say it to me. There have been other people in my life that are like, you need to take better care of you first.
Mhm.
And so I've given myself permission to focus on me and to really be clear about what do I need so that I can give from a place of overflow and not from a deficit. So it's
Love it.
really all about, identifying, knowing, again, knowing yourself and
Mhm.
being clear about what it is that you need to function best and then being willing to articulate that to other people and reinforce those expectations when people violate them, and
Yeah.
ask for what you need. That to me, like you said, beyond the Pinterest version of, oh, we're doing facials and spa
Mhm.
treatments, but it's really the idea of truly looking after yourself.
Mhm.
My new favorite phrase is I have to save myself because no one else is coming to save me.
Right. Right.
There is nobody coming in to save you. There may be people who will help you on your journey. There are people who will support you on your journey, but there is no one that is coming to take over your life and save you. And
Mhm.
so once I really embraced that and stepped into it, I've seen a tremendous difference.
Well, thank you for that. And actually, the next question kind of, I think
Mhm.
you've already kind of answered that because it was about asking how you reset when you're running on
Mhm.
empty. And you talked about the deficit, you can't.
Mhm.
Um, how did you just say that? I wanted to say it the way you
You
said
have to, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to give from your overflow. And
yes.
so often, I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday, and she's making the transition out of being a single mom, and her kids are now off to college. And so now she's in that identity crisis of, okay, what does this look like? For me, I got married early this year. And so it was really important for me to take a step back and identify, what does my life look like in this season? I
Mm-hmm.
think so often we're just going and going and going and going that we don't take that time for a reset. And
Right.
what she and I discussed yesterday, and I told her that's the same journey I'm on. I had to stop. I
Mm-hmm.
literally had to stop. I have a note that's on my desk that I look at every day. And the first thing it says is slow down,
Mm-hmm.
slow
Mm-hmm.
down. So for me, it's slowing down, it's taking time and space for myself. It's taking time to just be, to think, to dream, to think, reflect on life, to express your gratitude for what is.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are so many things that are wonderful about the life that we have. That's important, I think, when you attempt to take a reset, is identify what's going well.
Yeah.
What are you grateful for? Who are
Yeah.
you grateful for?
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to evaluate those things and really just, whatever I need in that moment, whether it be rest, whether it be a nice dinner out, whether it be a vacation, whether it be my favorite drink from Sonic, whatever that is in that moment,
Right.
you have to treat
Mhm.
yourself, and you
Right.
have to, but even sometimes I think it's like giving yourself permission sometimes to stop and walk away and come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it all comes back to that sense of awareness, that knowledge of self, and then being able to have the courage
Mm-hmm.
to prioritize your needs,
Right.
and make sure that you're at your best.
And it almost sounds like you're saying too, setting boundaries. Because I think as women, a lot of times we think we have to, especially as wives and mothers, and then,
Mhm.
work, that we're supposed to just keep going because everybody needs.
Absolutely.
And if we're not
Hmm.
careful and we don't set those boundaries, we will be in that place of deficit. So I love how you said that. So thank you for
Hmm.
sharing.
Thank
So,
you.
can you share a time when you had to rise back from a challenge? And then what, and I heard him laugh because I know you've already told me you're relentlessly resilient. So,
Yes.
what anchored you in that season?
Hmm. And I shared this. So when I spoke at that leadership conference, that was the first time that I had been so vocal about my journey and my story, because I had kept it so close to the vest for a long time. And there are many reasons for that. We can unpack that another
Mhm.
time. But what people don't know about me a lot of times, and my husband says, he's like, people see you and they assume a certain thing, or they think a certain thing about you. What people don't know about me is I have literally restarted my life from scratch 3 different times.
Mm, wow.
And so, like, my friends and family will say, "Oh, well, you're never afraid. You have the courage to just jump out there and try things." And I was like, "No, it's just a confidence that's been built and a faith in God that's been built, because I have had to start over from nothing
Mhm.
and really rebuild." So the first time that comes to mind is I was working in the gaming industry. I had burned myself totally out. I was making great money. I was in my 20s, but I worked a lot. And I didn't know how to effectively balance it. I didn't have the knowledge about how to take care of myself in the midst of what I knew was to hustle, was to work, was to grind, like you said, to feel like I have to accomplish all the things. And at that time, I was single. I didn't have a husband or children at that time, and I wore myself out. So I'd walked away and I decided to go to study aesthetics. I've always loved the wellness and the beauty industry. And so I went to study aesthetics. I was like, this will be good. It'll be relaxing. It'll give me a change of pace. I can go do something different. Well, as fate would have it, I learned that I was pregnant with my oldest daughter during that time. So now it's like, okay, so what are you going to do? Because now you have a child that you have to take care of. And so I had left my high paying, very successful job. The relationship that I had been in for 4 years fell apart. And now I'm pregnant with this baby.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I had lost everything that I identified my life with. I had defined my life by those things, and those things were now gone.
Right.
And I really didn't know, like, okay, what does this mean?
Mhm.
Because this was my life. I was successful, everyone expected me to be. I was, high performing. That was the expectation. And, it was just a ripple effect. I lost the relationship. I had a home I had purchased. I lost the home. And I now have this child. I need to provide for me and the child. We have to figure out where we're going to go. So we had to pack up and move home and, pursue other opportunities. So I couldn't go into aesthetics at that time. I had to lean back on that business degree. I got a job at a nonprofit as an HR director. Thank God I was able to do that and fall back on that experience. And I had to slowly rebuild. And a few years later, I found myself knocked down again. And I had to start all over again. By that time, I had child number two
Mhm.
and had to go through this process. And so then a few years later, personal experiences, things happen. We had to start over again. But
Mhm.
again, it's that idea of being relentless. Like things are going to happen in life.
Mhm.
That's a given. We are all going to face challenges. It's what we do in those moments that makes the difference. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I had it all together and that I
Mhm.
did it right and it was a picture perfect story. Because I'll
Mhm.
be honest with you, I feel like I lost about 10 years of my life. There were 10 years that I spent that I felt like I was just like a hamster on a wheel, just spinning in
Mhm.
circles. I had, decent jobs to be able to provide for my children, doing the best I can to be a mom. I'm a single mom with two small girls, but I had not forgiven myself.
Mhm.
And I couldn't get past what had happened and the failure. And I literally was stuck.
Mhm.
And I'm sharing this because I want someone to understand that no matter what you have done, no matter what you've experienced, no matter how low the low gets, no matter
Mhm.
what you've been through, you have to allow yourself the knowledge and the understanding, the wisdom to know God has forgiven me.
Mhm.
And He has blessings waiting for me.
Yes.
But I was stuck. I would not forgive myself. I would not allow myself to get past what I lost, not realizing there was something so much better waiting for me on the other side. But that's how we get stuck. We're holding on to these things that have happened and the mistakes that we've made and the failures. And oh my goodness, it's such a struggle.
Yeah.
So, each one of those experiences taught me a lot. And the biggest thing was as you go through things, take whatever you can from it,
Mhm.
learn from it. And I think the other thing is that I had to accept that, we are the main characters in our story. And what that means is you're the common denominator. So if
Mhm.
I've got failed career, failed relationships, I've now got these children, I'm not married, and okay, I'm having to figure this out on my own. You have to sometimes stop and take stock and recognize, well, I'm the common denominator here.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I started on a self-awareness journey. I started really starting to study and get deeper into understanding me, well, unpacking things that I carry, unhealthy beliefs. My sister makes t-shirts, and I have a t-shirt that says unlearning because there were some things that had been drilled into me years, over the years that I had to unlearn. There were
Mhm.
some things that I just thought had to be a certain way that I had to unlearn, that I had to let go. And sometimes we hold on because that's our safety, that's our security, that's what we know. But the most freeing thing has been when I've given myself permission to let go of things and to really approach it in a different way.
Mhm. It's almost like, get surrendering to the God and just letting you be who you are. And I'm so glad
Yes.
that you shared your self-awareness journey, because we don't really get to know ourselves if we aren't aware of, like you stated before, our strengths, our areas
Mhm.
that need growth. So again, I love listening to your story. You're such a bright light.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome. So before we wrap up, I do want to
Mhm.
ask you, what advice would you give another woman who
Okay.
feels that her light might be dimming a bit? It could be in her relationships, it could be, in her workplace. What's something that you might tell this lady?
Well, I would first say I've been there. And so, what I'm about to tell you is from my lived experience. It's not something I read in a book. It's not something I saw on the internet. It's what I know to be true and sure.
Mhm.
And so, what I would say is to know that there's greatness inside of you. And the only person who can truly stop you from achieving whatever it is that God has for you is you.
Mhm.
And you may look at the situation and you may feel like it's everybody else, and you may be able to identify all the ways that these other people impact your light. And
Right.
I've been there. I'm like, well, I'm overlooked. I'm underpaid. This person didn't treat me right. At the end of the day, I, again, am the main character in my story. And so if you feel like your light is being dimmed, if you feel like you're not seeing life in the way that you want or experiencing it fully, then
Mhm.
I encourage you to take some time and sit with you and examine what you're doing, examine how you're showing up, examine, how you're even thinking and speaking. I was saying that to my friend yesterday. You have to reframe how you speak about yourself. You have to reframe how you speak about your life.
Mhm.
I literally write out affirmations. I told you I have a sticker on my computer and I read them every
Mhm.
day. You have to sit. So, to your point, we get so caught up in the hustle and bustle and the day to day that we don't focus on ourselves. So,
Correct.
my advice would be to first stop, slow down, focus on you.
Mhm.
Find some time. I know people say, well, I don't have time. You make time to do whatever you want. Make some time to be intentional about being still and about having some thought about, okay, what do I want? What
Mhm.
where is this disconnect in my life? And what am I going to do to change it?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just that if you feel undervalued, you may need to find the courage to speak up and advocate for yourself. If you feel underpaid, you have to have the courage. I don't care. I've had to do it myself where you have to say the number. I'm sure you've done this as a consultant. You put the
Yes.
number on there, send the proposal and just go with it. But it's like it's not enough to just have the knowledge and the awareness. There's also action that's required. And
Yep.
so you have to be willing. This is another thing I'm a big advocate of. You have to be willing to go through the uncomfortable seasons. So often we want life to be comfortable, and our growth really doesn't come from those seasons
Exactly.
of comfort.
Yep.
You have to have a willingness and a courage to go, I'm going to do it scared. I'm going to
Yes.
speak up for myself, and I'm going to be afraid, but I'm going to say what needs to be said. This
Right.
person has continued to undervalue me because guess what? Nobody else can dim your light.
That's right.
We think that they can. We allow it to seem that way. But
Mhm.
I would certainly say, listen, figure out where the disconnect is, figure out what's driving this feeling of your light being dimmed, and then create a plan of what you're going to do about it and push yourself through. Again, I'm not telling you it'll be easy. It's going to
Mhm.
be very uncomfortable. It's going
Mhm.
to push you outside your comfort zone. But what I know, as Oprah would say for sure, at this point in my life, things that I never thought would happen. I had gotten to the point I never thought I would get married. I didn't think that this life that I'm living today was possible, but that it became possible because I did years and years of work on me. It was years and years of work of me showing up differently. Now, that wasn't a quick process.
Mhm.
You don't flip a switch and overnight you're just different, but in
Right.
small ways, figure out how to show up for yourself. Because if you feel like your light is being dimmed, that's because you're allowing someone to dim your light. And then the other thing is, I think we have to learn to be okay with being different. That
Mhm.
was something that I struggled with for a long time. I felt misunderstood. I felt like nobody else really got me. I was like, people don't seem to understand. And the reality is it's okay to be different.
Mhm.
You may have been designed and fashioned to be different. So when you if you especially if you feel like your light is being dimmed because no one else gets it, well, guess what? It's gonna be you and God.
Mhm.
Those will
Right.
be the mainstays, and you have to be okay with that. We have to sometimes be okay with there's not going to be a large crowd or a huge community around us. I
Right.
believe I have a small group, but
Mhm.
they're solid.
Right.
But even within that, first and foremost, the priority is my belief in me and my belief in what I know God has put inside of me. And then I have to push myself because God will give you the opportunity.
Mhm.
Now, will you speak up in that moment? Will you advocate for yourself? Will you set the boundary? Will you hold the boundary,
Mhm.
reinforce it when someone crosses it? Like, it's going to take action on your part. There is no magic potion. There is no, let me tell you 3 steps and it's going to be great. It's going to be a process. It will take trial and error, but you
Mhm.
have to continue to work at it. So the first thing is to have the mindset that I refuse to no longer stand in the space of my light being dimmed,
Mhm.
and then just consistently work at it. And you'll look up over time and go, wow, my life is changing.
Mhm.
It just happens like that.
Well, you have so many insightful things that you just shared with us. And that was the main reason, like I told you, that was the truth, how I felt like I connected with you when you talked
Hmm.
about the authenticity that you share, and it came across,
Thank you.
in your presentation. And so it was like, oh my gosh, I need to just go meet her. And
Yeah,
I'm so glad that we are on a journey together. Uh,
absolutely.
Learning each other as well and becoming friends. So I
Yeah.
definitely appreciate this. I want to also ask before we close.
Mhm.
You mentioned quite a bit of things that we can do to not let our light be dimmed. But if you
Mhm.
could tell your younger self any of those things, what would probably be the one thing that you would tell your younger self?
I would certainly tell myself, first of all, girl, you are not crazy. You are not crazy. There is better for you. There is greater for you. You heard God correctly the first time.
Mhm.
But you're going to have to go on this journey. This journey is going to shape you. This journey is going to mold you. It's going to get you to where you need to be. It's going to prepare you for you to be the woman you need to be. So just keep going.
Mhm.
I know it doesn't look like it today. And I know you seem like you're holding on to this shred of belief and faith, but just keep going because it is all going to come together in a way that you could never imagine.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here with us
you.
today and for our audience joining us on the Women's Spotlight, her light, her story. I hope that today's conversation with Richardson um, inspires you to keep shining your light and walking confidently in your own story. So if you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and join me next time as we continue to celebrate the incredible journeys of women like you. Until then, keep showing up, keep growing, and keep shining. See you next time, my lady friend.